Welcome back to Washington Journal. Joining us now is California Democrat Gil Cisneros. He is a member of the Armed Services and the Small Business Committees. He's also a member of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. Congressman Cisneros, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you for having me.
Since you're on the Armed Services Committee, I do want to start with the war in Iran. There have been additional members, service members, died recently in the past week. I want to just start in general. How do you think that war is going?
It's going horribly. The American people don't want another forever war. This is something the president promised not to get us into another forever war, and I think that's exactly where we're headed right now. He has no way of getting out. He doesn't know how to get out. And, he still hasn't come to Congress, him or the secretary, to explain or even ask for military action, which Congress is the authorizing authority. They're, according to the Constitution, the body that declares war or even authorizes military action. And they still haven't asked for that. And then, after the MOU that they had that he now kind of threw out, saying it's no longer in place, now they're saying, oh, the clock starts over again. It's been well over 60 days where they've kind of been in action, and it is time that they need to come and explain themselves to Congress as to what they're doing there and what their plan is.
I don't know if you got to see Secretary Hegseth and Chairman General Kaine in front of the Senate yesterday. Do you feel that was an explanation as far as what the strategy might be and what the exit strategy might be?
No, there's no strategy. There's no exit strategy. There's no plan. They don't know what they're doing over there, and they kind of went into this. My feeling is right after Venezuela that, that was so quick and done, they thought the same thing would happen in Iran and that they would give up and it would be over. But Iran is not Venezuela. It's a totally different situation. From what I've heard is that the president that was explained to him, but yet he ignored it. And, right now they're coming to us just asking for money, but with no explanation as to where it's going to go. I went on a recent CODAL, and they're telling us, oh, we need money for this, for the barracks, we need money to build up infrastructure.
You went on a CODAL where?
To Hawaii. It was a RIMPAC. It was this past weekend. But there's no guarantee that that money's going to go right back into the war. It's not going to go and fix the barracks that they're telling us that they need to have done, and that's going to take care of the troops. There's no guarantee there.
So now that we're in this war, what's the solution? Because the secretary and the chairman were saying we need this to replenish munitions stocks that have been depleted. Of course, they also blamed the previous administration that you were a part of at the Pentagon. So what do we do now that we need those munitions? Are we then left, if this doesn't get funded, are we left in a reduced state of readiness?
Well, we do need those munitions, right? But we also need to get out of this war. If we stay in this war, we're just going to keep using more munitions. And the fact is we cannot replenish at the rate of what they are using right now. It just takes too long to build certain missiles. And they're firing off hundreds at a time, and it takes months to build one. And so we need to get out of this war. We do need to replenish our stocks, but right now they need to have a strategy. They need to have some way of ending this, and I'm not seeing that right now.
If you'd like to talk to our guest, Representative Gil Cisneros, Democrat of California, start calling now. Democrats are on 202-748-8000, Republicans 202-748-8001, and Independents 202-748-8002. You said that it just takes too long to replenish those stocks. We did have a caller that was saying, you know what? Wars today are not being fought with the big bombs. They are being fought with drones, in cyberspace, and like that. How do you react to that?
I mean, the state of war that we're seeing in Ukraine, it is changing, right? Drones are becoming more prevalent. The caller, I guess, was right. Cybersecurity is something that's very important now to warfare, but we're not there yet. The Ukrainians have found a way to use drones as a way of kind of making it cheaper, and they've been effective at using drones. We don't have that technology yet. So that's why we're still shooting off tomahawks. and other missiles like that, right?
How are we behind on technology?
You know, because warfare is always ever changing. And I think right now with the Ukrainians, what the Ukrainians did and what the Iranians were able to do is they didn't have the technology to do the missiles and things that we had. So they found a cheaper way to do that that's been just as effective. So now we're using, you know, Patriot missile batteries to kind of shoot down drones that, but the Patriot missiles that we're using are so much more expensive than the drones that they are using. And it's not being very cost effective for us. So that's something that we need to kind of work on and to help build the technology.
The Secretary yesterday several times blamed the Biden administration for reducing our readiness, for ignoring certain technologies like hypersonics. You were Undersecretary of Defense for Personnel and Readiness in the Biden administration. What's your response to the Secretary?
I think he's just making excuses, right? Hypersonics were something that we were working on, the technology developing and investing in while I was at the Pentagon. And I think you can say right now we are there, but hypersonics aren't going to help us in this war. They don't have hypersonics, the Iranians, that they're using right now against us, but we've improved our technology when it comes to hypersonics. We improved the technology, I think, to be able effectively to shoot those down. But there's still ways to go, right? And this was not this wasn't a problem that existed in there. It was something that existed before the Biden administration. I will say the Biden administration actually make improvements in there around this technology.
The National Defense Authorization Act, the NDAA, is coming up for a vote. How will you vote?
You know, there was a bunch of amendments. I voted yes on the in committee. But some of the amendments that are being added to it and the fact that they're adding the Save America Act or one of these, whatever version of the Voting Suppression Act that's being attached to it, I'm going to be a no.
Why? What is it about that Save America Act that bothers you?
Well, the fact that it's going to discriminate against, you know, basically against women who married, right? This whole thing, right? They are trying to solve a problem that doesn't exist. And less people are going to be able to vote because of this. It is a voter suppression bill that they're trying to force down on the American people. And the fact that they're now trying to attach it to the NDAA makes it a no for me.
I want to ask you about voter ID. So this is showing a picture ID in order to cast a ballot. There are 38 states that require that anyway. California, your state, is not one of those. Would you be in favor of forcing California to ask for a voter ID?
No, I think our voting system in California, now look, it does take a long time to count votes in California, but that's because we want to get it right. You know, I would push for us to kind of find a faster, more effective way, but
what's wrong with asking for a photo ID? Just prove who you are before we give you this ballot.
Well, the thing that you have, right, most people in California now vote by mail. How do you show your voter ID when you're voting by mail?
Well, the president wants to do away with that.
I know he does, right? Even though he votes by mail. It's good enough for him. Why can't it be good enough for the rest of the people? He could have very easily, he's the president of the United States, got on a plane and went down to Florida to vote and come back. But he chose not to do that. He chose to do it by mail. So if it's good enough for him, it should be good enough for the American people. And by doing that, you're basically going to strip away the ability for people to vote by mail.